Buddham sharanam gacchami.
Buddham sharanam gacchami.
Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami.
Dhammam sharanam gacchami.
Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami.
La da la me je benji chabje pe mo la du jing pongba kun le do jem roma yum la cha ze lo dare tu re so 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 ge wan di ye nyu do da Hama drama tubyo ne rawa chik jama lupa tiye salang go bara sho. Tashidilik everyone. In the last two verses that we read in the last session, discussed about the fact that we must today make effort in spiritual practice because we have all the needed facilities and free from hindrances. Now the reason, now in the next verse 65, it talks about the reason why we should make effort in spiritual practice or Dharma practice. We need to undertake spiritual practice and transform our mind to reduce suffering. So in this connection, we really need to know how much suffering and problem is there in the samsara, in the cycle of existence. Now, when we say samsara, especially when we use the word cyclic existence, cyclic existence does not primarily refer to the external world or the environment where we live. Cyclic existence also does not primarily refer to your family, because sometimes people, when they have a lot of problems in their family, then they say, oh, I'm living in the samsara today, as if your family is your samsara. Okay, so the real samsara basically refers to your psychophysical aggregate. This mind and body that you have today is projected by contaminated actions and reflective emotions. And because of this, we are vulnerable. We constantly suffer from all types of sufferings. So therefore, if you want to put an end to this continuous suffering, then it's important to engage in practice in such a way so that you don't have to take such a body and such a mind. So therefore, in order to truly develop this aspiration to do spiritual practice, you need to have a very proper understanding of the sufferings by which we are afflicted. So when we talk about multifold sufferings in this world, we are not just exaggerating. We are not talking about something which is not there to frighten you. Okay? There is really so many layers of suffering that is confronting us. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, we don't know many of these sufferings. We have some idea, a little bit idea about manifest suffering, which is sometimes called suffering of suffering, like headache or stomachache or diarrhea or things like that. But you don't have much understanding of the second suffering, which is called suffering of change. Not realizing the suffering that is produced by change due to contaminated actions and reflective emotions, we normally tend to see those fleeting pleasures as happiness and not sufferings. For example, if you get a promotion in your job, you will see it as a happiness, not knowing how long this promotion will last, how long you will be able to work. If you get some recognition or some name, again you get elated, not knowing that this is also changeable. So whether it's your name or fame or your family, your relationship, your money, whatever you have, they're all subject to suffering in the sense that they will soon change and you will lose them and you will have to give them up. And when you do this, you will have a lot of suffering. Then there is even a deeper level of suffering, which is called conditioned suffering, meaning that you have this other types of suffering because there is something is basically wrong. Meaning, as I said, this body that we have, this mind that we have itself is product of afflictive emotions and contaminated actions. For example, if you look at your body, how fragile it is, unless you be very careful, improper way of life, improper way of food, anything can make you sick and even take your life. So it's very, very fragile. So that's the nature of your body. It's made of flesh, bones, and so forth, not made of diamond or even iron or even stone, right? Then look at the volatility of your mind, the emotional instability, which is, rampant in today's world, especially. So because of this reality, even without Dharma teaching, people are gradually recognizing, realizing the very destructive effects of
uncontrolled emotional upheaval. People call it the roller coaster of emotions. It's really riding on a roller coaster. If you ride on a roller coaster, sometimes you can take where you want to go. Sometimes it will take where it wants to take, and you have no control. So look at this countless emotions: anger, jealousy, hatred, negative competition, countless, 84,000 types of negative emotions we talk about. But at least there are so many, obvious emotions, negative emotions by which we suffer on a daily basis, regular basis. So unless you are able to develop a perspective, outlook, view, unless you gain some control over this fluctuation of negative emotions, we will be simply drawn into this ocean of negative emotions. I mean, for example, anger. Take the example of anger. Just take the example of anger. Not only it is so destructive to your body and your mind in your relationship, but even in terms of money. We need to talk about money these days because people are basically, this whole world is running after money today, unfortunately. And it's because of too much running after money and power and name and fame, as an exchange to that, we lose our freedom, not realizing that people run after money, right? So even that money, now people who are angry or hot-tempered, because of hot temper and anger, suicide takes place, mass murder takes place, killing takes place. I once read a book published in America that America loses billions of dollars because of anger. Similarly, take the example of attachment and so forth. Even in terms of financial loss or environmental destruction, the negative outcome is unthinkable, immense, really unthinkable. And I had mentioned earlier that, for example, take the example of greed. It is greed that is destroying the whole planet today. Unchecked greed. So we are doing this at our own peril. And it's because of these negative emotions, we are moving towards committing a global suicide. As simple as that. If you don't believe me, take a little bit of time and do some research. You don't have to listen to me, but use your common sense thing and try to locate some of the data that is found by thinkers and scientists. So therefore, as I mentioned right in the beginning, Dharma practice means changing the mind from negative to the positive. This is not necessarily a religious practice, but for your own well-being, for the well-being and harmony of the whole world, the whole planet, the whole environment. There is no other better way. If there is one, please tell me. I want to share that to other people also. There's no other way, right? So it is out of ignorance, out of egoistic approach to everything, out of just thinking about oneself, we are experiencing all these types of problems in the world today, right? Just today, I read a piece which read that every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone, it is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of the scientists, the hopes of its children. This is not a way of life at all in any true sense. Under the clouds of war, it is humanity hanging on a cross of iron. As simple as that. As simple as that. So therefore it is high time, and in fact it's an urgent thing that we must change the course of direction of human thinking, human consciousness. There must be a revolution in human consciousness, right? So instead of mass producing these weapons for mass murder and mass killing, let us do something which would, in the true sense of the term, bring more safety, security, and happiness in the mind of the people. So therefore, these wisdoms of this wisdom tradition coming from India or coming from Greek or from wherever, I think it is high time we study those wisdoms and apply it, not just talk, apply it. So therefore, the one thing that will provoke you to do such practice and make such effort is if you really understand the fragility, the suffering, the problems that is already happening and that might continue to happen in the future. If you get a better sense of that and develop some conviction about the truth of such death and destruction and suffering, then hopefully it will spur you to do more spiritual practice. So that's the reason. So therefore, in the next verse, it suggests us to meditate on the faults or shortcomings of samsara. This is important because those of us who have studied a little bit of Buddhism, just for the sake of talking, we say, oh, it's samsara, so much problem. But deep down, we are actually enjoying samsara, thinking samsara is so far very good. A clear indication is that we are all scared of dying. If you are scared of dying, it means you want to live. Live where? In the samsara. Right? So therefore, people with wisdom, they say, there's no need for you to develop fear when you die. But the thing that you need to fear is when your conscience is dead or not alive, even when you are supposed to be alive. So let us awaken this consciousness. Do not let it die when you are alive. And also, many of us, the Buddhist practitioners, we pray that in the future lives, may I obtain the life of a precious life of a human being. So if you sincerely want to attain such a precious human life, then why don't you use this precious human life which you already obtained? Without using this precious human life which you already obtained and simply praying for one in the next life is hypocritical. So therefore, there's every reason for us to appreciate, as we already read in the preceding verses, to appreciate the opportunity, the capacity, the possibility that we have today. Young or old, whoever we are, we have this opportunity. But this opportunity is not going to stay with us for a long, long time. With every passage of hour and minute and months and years, the opportunity is slipping from your hand. So seize the moment and try to transform your attitude. So therefore, let us read this verse 65, which talks about the need to meditate on the faults of samsara. Nagarjuna politely addresses the king by saying, gentle sir. He calls the king by saying, gentle sir, become disgusted with samsara. You should become disgusted with samsara because this samsara is source of so much suffering. For example, material deprivation, meaning that there are many things that you want, but you are not getting it. There is suffering. Things that you want, you don't get it. Things you don't want, it's there. People you want to meet, they're not available even on the phone. People you don't want, they seem to be standing in the corner and waiting for you. Right? So therefore, that's the problem, material privation. And then death. I mean, how many people are dying just by the COVID? Unbelievable, every day. Even in this very small state, in Himachal Pradesh, where I live, even to these days, every day at least 2-3 people are dying from the COVID. It may not necessarily be COVID, but COVID-related mortalities, 2, 3, 4 people every day. And this is because of just COVID. And then imagine there are many other illnesses and sicknesses by which how many people are dying, we have no clue, no idea. So death is there. Then illness, all kinds of illnesses. And among illnesses, there are some illnesses which are kind of modern invention, which was not there in ancient times when people had a relaxed time, when people live friendly, they talk to each other, meet and go, for an excursion and breathe the clean air. Huh? They didn't have many of these problems, even though they didn't have many of these medical facilities. Now today, illness, because of so many reasons, illness due to different kind of viruses, which are proliferating because of our own unhealthy behavior, right? Then illnesses, many mind-related illnesses. I don't have to count all of them. You should be able to know all this. Then aging, we are all aging. There's nobody who's not aging. Aging starts right from the second moment after your birth. Second moment. Aging doesn't start only after you cross 65 or 70. Aging starts in the next moment after your birth. In fact, birth itself is the cause for your aging. Birth itself is the cause for your death. We welcome birth, but we fear death. This is a paradox. If you're welcoming birth, you should also welcome death. We are definitely welcoming birth. Everybody celebrates, make sure that they know their birthday. And then there's a big celebration, happy birthday. It's only Buddha who said, birth is suffering, suffering birthday. I'm not discouraging you to, celebrate happy birthday. You can celebrate it in a different sense, but deep down you should know, birth is suffering. When the child is born, from whichever country you are, when the child is born crying. If it is such a happy occasion, then they should come out from the mother's womb laughing or smiling, right? Then also I have noticed that the very little babies after birth, I saw them doing a lot of yawning. I need to figure out why they yawn so much, right? So that's the reason. Then of course, we all know that aging, illness, death, these are sufferings. And then in the case of aging, the only good news with aging is it comes slowly, gradually, and unnoticeably. If there is an onslaught attack of aging, we'll all die of heart attack. Imagine if you are a very good-looking boy and young boy and girl, very beautiful, very handsome, and go to bed tonight, and tomorrow morning, if you wake up with wrinkles covering your forehead and white hairs grown all over your head, you will die of shock, you will die of heart attack. The only good thing is that it comes gradually and unnoticeably. But the bad side of that is because it's coming so gradually, unnoticeably, that we tend to ignore it. We tend to ignore it, right? So it's like the environmental degradation, the environmental degradation takes gradually unnoticeable. So therefore, everybody participates in destroying the environment, and everybody thinks that he or she has not done any major damage. But damage is done by everybody. And then gradually, once we notice the damage that is done, then it has already reached a stage where it cannot be restored. Right? So therefore, right in the beginning, we need to, that's why in Buddhism, we talk so much about the need to cultivate wisdom. It is by developing proper wisdom, insight, awareness, mindfulness, whatever term you use, through this positive mental outlook, you will be able to see the reality as it is. And it is by seeing the reality that hopefully you will wake up and you will not slumber into state of ignorance, aging and the like. Here now further a few of its faults. So it continues to explain that there are many faults of samsara. Now in the samsara, One's father becomes a son, one's mother a wife, enemies become friends. The reverse of this occurs as well. Thus in samsara, there is no certainty whatever. Now today we have certain group of people who we call as our brother, sister, father, and so forth. We have developed a lot of attachment, but in the past life, they may have been your not only enemy, but sworn enemy. We don't have to go really further, very far. In this very life, I've seen many brothers not in good terms, and their property getting divided, family getting divided. And there are also cases of family fighting and killing each other over wealth and so forth. So there's no certainty. There's no definiteness, right? And with the change of life, the only thing is that you don't know. Otherwise, with the change of life, the so-called your friend, your father or mother today may have been the worst enemy in the past life. The so-called enemy that you have today, maybe your past life's father or mother. The point is, because there is no certainty about your relationship with others, they change with the change of life. Therefore, do not develop too much attachment to the so-called friends and relatives of today. And similarly, do not develop too much hatred and disliking towards the so-called enemy of this life, because there's no certainty. And then from the side of the sentient beings, they're all exactly like you, wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. Therefore, take care of them. Develop love, compassion, and so forth. Okay. Now, while we took so many lives, different lives, then during this courses of change of life, we enjoyed so many things, but we never had any satisfaction. So the next verse says, each has drunk in our many past lives. If we put together everything that you had drunk, each individual has drunk more milk than the 4 oceans. While in the succeeding samsara of the common person, much more than that, it's still to be drunk. I mean, no need to count past lives, the milk or water that you drank in the past lives. In this life, in this very life, even in this very month, if you count all the milk that you've used, all the tea that you've used, everything that you had eaten, if you are able to somehow calculate and put them together, how much you have eaten, how much you have drunk, and how much you have thrown all of this into the toilet and so forth. So it's just countless. Now the point of saying this is that unless we make an effort to use this precious human life and precious human mind to a good purpose, to a beneficial purpose, then there's not much point taking such a rebirth again and again, eating that food again and again, taking that milk again and again, and so forth. So these teachers are saying you should be now tired of. For example, if you're somebody who's doing a particular job all the time, you might say, oh, I've been doing this job for so long, now I'm tired. I want to change the profession. I want to change the job. So similar like that. Now you should be tired of this ceaseless suffering that you had experienced in these countless lives, right? Okay. So the point that we just made here is, now if this is the case, then the question is it possible to put an end to the samsara? That's the key question. So according to the Buddhist teaching, yes, it is possible, because the root of this endless cycle of existence is ignorance, as I said. Ignorance is a misconception of reality. Not only our being projected into the samsara, but many of these unhealthy things that is done in the world today is because of confusion, ignorance, misconception. So if you cultivate more wisdom and replace the misconception with the right conception, ignorance with the wisdom, seeing things as they are, you can reduce many of these sufferings. Even if you're unable to uproot it, you will definitely be able to lessen it. That's 100% sure. 100% sure when you change it. Because what you do is very much dependent upon your mind, your mental outlook. A mental outlook can be changed. The good thing with our human brain or human mind is it will accept whatever training you give, right? Buddha became Buddha. Forget about the past life stories. In that very life also, Buddha became Buddha because he met the needed causes and conditions, the right teacher and so forth. Then there are many others who engage in horrible life because of having made a different unconducive situation environment. This is very clear. Education is so important, positive education, training on mind and compassion. These are so important. I have one friend who runs a school in Bodh Gaya, mostly students from children from poor families. So last time I met, few years back when I met him, he said he has around, I think, 900 something students. These students he never saw these students picking even one quarrel during many of these years, because right from the beginning, proper training is being given. So really, really important. So it's possible. We are not talking about something that is impossible. So the solution for all the problems that we see in the today is genuine compassion and love. World needs that healing touch. Problems cannot be solved by threatening each other. Unfortunately, that is the tactic that we are doing today. Use money power of arms and militaries, things like that, unfortunately, right? So therefore, but in order to put an end to this ignorance, which is the root cause of suffering, you need to make effort. That ignorance will not disappear by itself. For example, we go to school, we go to university. Why? Because we need to make effort to change from illiteracy to literacy. Otherwise, why should you go to school? And from that fact, we all know that, yes, in the beginning, I don't know even to read ABCD. Now I know it. Not only that, now I did my PhD, things like that. So this is a clear indication. So the difference between the training of the body and the training of the mind is, in the case of the training of the body, it is important you do some physical exercise, but there is a limit beyond which the physical development will not take place, because the basis on which you are giving the training is a material physical entity. Whereas if you train the mind, the very basis is a pure energy. So it can be developed to limitless quality. That's why we have Buddha or many other great beings. In ordinary sense, even great thinkers like philosophers and thinkers, they never said, I know everything. Meaning that they are all saying that, yes, I'm not able to use my brain, I'm not able to use my mind, and I can use it, develop further, provided my life is long enough and things like that. Right? So there's good news. So therefore, the purpose of doing such a study is trust more to the potential, efficacy, and value of your mind, a little bit less to the importance of the body. In today's world, the problem is we are paying so much emphasis on the material aspect, including your physical body. In terms of your physical body, especially if you go to big cities, there are gyms, there are many places where you can do exercise, and many places where you can beautify your face, right? You do all this physical jogging and walking and exercise and things like that. And also undertake so many surgeries to what they call as facelift, right? You completely change your face which means basically changing the skin. So you are spending a lot of money beautifying the physical body. But how many of us are genuinely trying to beautify the mind? The real beauty is the beauty of the mind, not of the body, not of the face. Because despite you are making endless effort, including surgical performance, to a short time, you may look handsome and beautiful, but gradually it will change. There's nothing much you can do. With the development of the mind, you can continue to do it even when you're old. So the latest good news is, as the Buddhists have been believing for a long, long time, that the mind, the beauty of the mind is the more you train it, the more it will become trained. And that training can be done even you are old, physically old, right? So that's the nature of the mind. So that's important. And in fact, even the physical beauty actually originates from the mental beauty. If you have a mind of love, mind of compassion, then the way you look at people, the way you smile, even if you have a broken teeth, it will really look beautiful and amazing when you have that beauty inside. But if you don't have that inner beauty and simply have this makeup and external beauty, it will not be counted as the real beauty in the true sense of the term. Because normally when we describe other people, whether they are good or bad, we describe them in terms of how they have behaved, how they have expressed themselves to other people. They will not say that person is very nice because her face is beautiful, right? So at the end of the day, what is really important is beautifying the mind, cultivating the mind. So my main point is that if we make the effort, we can reduce ignorance, we can lessen many of these negative emotions. Okay? So it is possible. And then another fault within the samsara is, just as we have discussed about the amount of the drinks that we drank and so forth. So similarly, the heap of bones belonging to each person would equal or even surpass that of Meru. That means once you are born in the samsara, naturally there is this fault of having to die again and again. We already discussed about the indefiniteness of the time of death and so forth. So the fact is that you have to die again and again. You have to die and take a birth, and then die, take a birth, die and take a birth. Similar like the trees. The heap of bones belonging to each person would equal or even surpass that of Mount Meru if we put all those together. And similarly, in the samsara, we have to take the conception again and again. We have to enter into the womb of the mother again and again. The earth would not suffice if one counted one's maternal lineage with pellets of soil the size of juniper berries. That means if you count how many times you have entered into the womb of the mother and count it with the help of pellets of earth and make small kind of balls like the size of juniper berries, you will not be able to count it. Okay. And then the ups and downs. There's no certainty about ups and downs. Having been Sakara, somebody in the celestial realm, having been Sakara, worthy of the world's veneration, one falls again to the earth through the force of karma, or having been a Chakravarti in morale, one assumes again in samsara's servant status. So that means even if you become the Sakra, who is really worthy of respect by many people in the celestial realm, or if you become a universal monarch, Chakravarti, very powerful king, but after death, they'll again fall into the samsara, and you might become, instead of a king, you might become a servant somewhere. So we don't have to go further. This is something that we read in the newspaper all the time. So-called very powerful president or prime minister today, tomorrow is in the prison, right? Somebody who's extremely rich, the next day, because of the global, upheaval of the market, becomes a pauper. There are many cases like that, many cases like that. So therefore, this external richness or wealth are not reliable. Name, fame, power, all these are not only reliable, but also if you aspire too much of wealth and power and name and fame, you will become a slave to all these things. And you will not be able to maintain your freedom, integrity, and independence. I read somewhere that, for example, almost like 95% of the scientists today in the world basically end up doing what their benefactors or what their sponsors ask them to do. I mean, imagine all these destructive nuclear bombs and so forth. They are done by the scientists. The scientists are doing this because they are getting huge amount of money from the government or other related, business people or corporates. So at the end of the day, you might get some money and have some pleasures in this life, but you're not able to make genuine contribution to the well-being of the globe, the humanity, and you lose your freedom. So therefore, one major purpose of doing such practice is that you should not become a servant to money, servant to name, servant to fame. You should maintain your individual freedom. Because at the end of the day, what is the most important thing is not money. Somewhere else I read money. What is money? Money is just a number. 10 rupees, 100 rupees, 1,000 rupees is a number. So there is no limit to the number, how much you want. There's no end to a number. So to expect satisfaction just by having more and more money is actually short-sighted stupidity. So therefore, one thing that is extremely important is you should not lose your personal identity, your personal integrity. And once you're able to maintain that personal freedom, personal integrity, personal individuality, and discover the real hidden treasure that is there within yourself, and activating them, activating love, activating compassion, right? Then that will become the source of your permanent happiness and source of granting happiness to many others who do not have that capacity. So the most important thing is not controlling others. The most important thing is controlling yourself, controlling your negative emotions. People who normally try to control others is a clear indication they don't have control over themselves. Because they don't have control over themselves, they don't trust people, they fear, so therefore they try to control others with the show of might, with the gun and so forth. That's what you see in all the dictatorial regimes. Why all these dictatorial regimes are using so much force, so much surveillance? Because they don't have control over themselves. Inside they have no love, no compassion, no power, no strength. Whereas in the case of enlightened beings like Buddha, They spend so much time controlling themselves, transforming their emotions. They did not try to grab even an inch of piece of an inch or piece of art, plot from other people. And it is by controlling themselves, transforming themselves, bringing forth this inner light, they're able to lead millions of people to the path of peace, happiness. Even today, there are millions of people who are getting that solace, peace, and happiness due to Buddha's teachings and so forth. So that is the beauty. That's the beauty. So therefore, through cultivating more wisdom, we really need to shun this human selfishness, ignorance, stupidity, running for fleeting pleasures, forgetting the long-term peace and happiness, thinking just about oneself, and completely ignoring the needs of other sentient beings. Only a small percentage of people wallowing in wealth, whereas the majority of people suffering in abject poverty. In the long run, this is not good even for these people who aspire to have wealth, status, and so forth. Right? So therefore, there is no certainty in the ups and downs in life. And then the next verse, he says that even the pleasures that the sensual pleasures that you get, the sensual pleasures that you get basically means the pleasures that you get in the desire realm. So within the 6 kind of migrations that is in the desire realm, the 2 prominent ones which enjoy more sensual pleasures or pleasures in the happiness in the desire realm is the human beings and the gods. And even within these 2, one who gets more pleasure is the celestial deities or gods. But whatever pleasures that you get in the desire realm, that is also not reliable. So this is explained in this verse 70. Having long experienced the pleasure of fondling the breasts and hips of celestial maidens, one then undergoes unbearable contact with crushing, cutting, and slashing processes in the hell. So that means not only in the celestial realm, even in the human realm, we're very fond, we think it's really happiness and peace to go with your girlfriend, boyfriend, fondling their breast and hips and whatever, and things like that. But because you have not accumulated the positive causes conditions for long-term happiness and peace, the next time with the change of life, you will take rebirth in a hell called crushing hell, where you will be crushed just like a sesame seed is crushed, or you will be cut into slices when you are born into the hell called black lion hell, or slashed into pieces, things like that. Similarly, contemplate that after the pleasant experience of the grounds depressing at the touch of your feet while dwelling long on Meru's peak, the terrible suffering of the fire pit and the sublime of filth will strike you once again. So, meaning that again, now this verse is talking about the pleasures or happinesses that you get from certain places. That is also not reliable. Now here it says, for example, if you, let us say you are born on the top of Mount Meru, okay? You're born in the top of Mount Meru, where the place is really like soft. Contemplate that after the pleasant experience of the grounds depressing at the touch of your feet, meaning that the ground is really like a sofa, okay? You touch on it and then it's really soft. Let us say you are born there. And then you stay there on the top of Mount Meru for a long time. And then with the change of life, you will be born in that fire pit. where there is terrible suffering of the fire pit, and the swarm of filth struck you once again. That means there is a hell realm which is called the fire pit hell realm. You might be born there. And then also the swarm of filth. So all this can strike you. Now this is again not telling a fairy story. Even in this world where we live, there are many people who suffer from heat, suffer from cold, right? Now because of our own human being, recently we've seen so much fire in America and many places, right? So when we talk about the hell realm, it doesn't really have to be a different place. It is how we experience based on our karmic results. There are many places, like in some places in Africa, people are starving, and the people there really look like hungry ghosts with big belly, and the rest of the body is really like skin and bones, eyes almost go, bulging out, things like that. So we can be born there. Even in the case of those of us who may be in a comfortable place, but who knows what will happen next time. Recently I heard about a young Tibetan whose mother was ill, and he went to buy some medicine for her, and he drove on a bike. And unfortunately, he had a terrible accident with a truck, and half of his body was just crushed after that truck. Now imagine who had thought about that. This is just one example. There's so many examples like that, right? So it's possible everywhere. And then similarly, having frolicked while dwelling in lovely and pleasant garden, regaled by celestial maidens, again one's arms, legs, ears, and nose are cut in the forest of trees with sword-like lips. This is also what we do. We are very fond of frolicking or wandering in the garden with your boyfriend, girlfriend, and things like that. Dwelling in lovely and pleasant garden. Regaled. Actually, in this case, it says in the celestial realm, there is a special garden where everybody go to visit with their girlfriend and things like that. And then you kind of happy and enjoying, but the next time with the change of life, right? You may be born in a place where the trees are not like ordinary tree, but trees whose leaves are like swords, which will chop you and cut you into pieces. And this kind of trees are not only in the hell realm. It is said that many of these examples of trees are actually found in different parts of India. Trees with leaves, which is really like sharp, like a sword, right? We may, even in this life, we may be cut, right? Due to misadventure and so forth. And similarly, after resting in the gently flowing stream with golden lotuses and celestial maidens of beautiful countenance, again one falls into the unbearably caustic boiling water of the infernal river of no ford. So this is similar to what we do also. We go to rivers and swimming pools and things like that. So again, with your boyfriend, girlfriend, especially your beautiful girlfriend, things like that, and you really seem to be enjoying, swimming and then looking at the face of your boyfriend, girlfriend, and things like that. But again, with the change of life, you will be born in a place where the water is unbearably caustic. And as soon as you put your leg in the water, it will be like putting your leg in a boiling water, and you lose your skin and things like that. Infernal river of no ford. So infernal river of no ford means you will be crossing, you will be trying to cross a river which has no ford, which means you cannot cross it. you will sink into it, right? So that is also possible. Okay. Having attained the extremely great pleasure of celestial realms and even Brahma's bliss of non-attachment, again one undergoes incessant suffering as kindling of the fire of Avicii. That means, as I said earlier, relatively speaking, the pleasures that you enjoy in the celestial realm is supposed to be a greater kind of happiness and greater kind of pleasure, even that you will not be able to enjoy continuously, even having attained the extremely great pleasure, that means comparing to the pleasure that is experienced by human beings, the ones experienced by those in the celestial realms are said to be greater from that point. And even Brahma's bliss of non-attachment. Brahma's bliss of non-attachment means, it does not mean that they have removed attachment completely. Especially to especially they have subdued or suppressed the direct manifestations of the afflictive emotions of the desire realm. So that's the meaning. Again, one undergoes incessant suffering as kindling of the fires of Avicii. Avicii means hell without respite. Even after enjoying so much happiness, next time you may be born in this hell without respite, where you will be burnt as if you are fuel of the fire. So that is possible. There is no certainty. Okay. When one has attained the stars of state of sun and moon, the light of one's body illumines the entire world, yet returning again to the darkness, not even one's outstretched hand is visible. That means, let us say again, there's no certainty that today you may be, you may have attained the state of sun and moon. Now, attained the state of sun and moon, in the sutra it talks about the celestial celestial child of the sun or celestial child of the moon and things like that. Okay, there's one meaning. So it refers to the individual. Then it could also refer to the actual sun and the moon. So whatever be the case, you may have been born in a place where there's so much light, either of the sun and the moon or of the light of your own body, right? But still, there's no certainty that you will continue to remain in their light forever. With the change of life, you may be born in a place where there is no light at all. Forget about the presence of sun and moon. You will not be able to see whether your legs and hands are moving or not. So again, don't think this is an exaggeration. In our world today also, there are places where 6 months light and 6 months darkness. If you go to the poles, right? I have been to Norway and Sweden and places like that. So they have, in Norway, for example, certain places, they don't have sunlight for many months, right? So the result of karma, you cannot really fathom, you cannot measure. And I've seen in some remote places, people, a whole village is living there under a snow mountain where there is a likelihood of the coming of avalanche. But people expect, people trust that it will not come, and it actually comes, and the whole village is destroyed and swept. And I know places where people are living in a room, in a house. My room is also a little bit like that, where there's a huge crack, and with slight tremor, it might collapse, but we all think it will not happen, and it happens and you die. So there's no certainty. There is no certainty. Okay. Now, this being the case, as such, what should we do now? So therefore, Nagarjuna advises the king, as such are the defects of samsara. Take the lamplight of the three types of merit. For alone, one enters the infinite darkness, which is unaffected by sun or moon. So that means now the only solution to remove these shortcomings in the samsara is, if you depend on these three types of lamp. Now, three types of lamp means, it could also mean that physically, mentally, verbally, you should transform yourself. So that will be your guiding light, because at the end of the day, you will go alone and you cannot take anybody with you. Even MasterCard you can't take with you. Even your body you can't take with you. When you came into this world, at least you brought your body with you. But when you go, even this body you have to leave behind. So what can you take now? You can take only whatever you have accumulated on your mind, positive or negative. If you take with you the negative accumulations, you will suffer. So therefore, make sure that you engage in virtuous practices physically, verbally, and mentally, especially leave a strong imprint on your mind, and that will become your guiding light. There's one way of explaining. Another way of explaining is that the three virtuous practices or light refers to the practice of giving, practice of morality, and practice of meditation, which is sometimes also referred as three types of merits. Okay. So because of the fact that you go alone when you die, the only thing that's going to help you, as we normally recount in the Lamrim stages of the path, that it's definite that you will die. Time of death is indefinite. The only thing that is going to help you at the time of death is your virtuous practices, the things you have stored in your mind. The rest are all excessive baggage, useless baggage. Reluctantly, you will have to leave all of this behind. Okay? And okay, we stop here today.
All right. Yes, Natasha.
Yes, Geshe, thank you so much. We have, it's maybe not so much a question, more of a comment from Dinara. She says, but we still need money to pay for housing, for our food, to buy air tickets to fly to the teachings, and to get this money we need to work hard. So we cannot just be free of this material part of life.
Yeah, there are many ways of answering these. One is, I never said you don't need money. Okay, you need money, but what I was saying was, don't make a mistake in prioritizing what we want. We are paying so much attention to money and material things, and we hardly pay attention to the inner resources, cultivation of inner resources. That is the problem. Not only at the end of the day, not only at the time of death, but in our day-to-day life. And unless you have these internal resources to deal with many problems and difficulties that crops up in our life, your life, despite your money and friends and so forth, your life will be miserable. I'm telling you. But if you have this inner resources ready to pull out which means if you're able to think in the right perspective, when you encounter these problems, problem is there, difficulty is there, but you will be able to handle it properly and successfully. I've seen this very clearly during this pandemic, the difference between people who have inner resources and who don't have inner resources. People who don't have these inner resources, And people who have until now only relied on the material things, and when you are seized by such problem like this pandemic, people are completely lost. They have no idea what to do. And then they sink into depression, thinking about doing all the negative things and lose hope and things like that, you see. So ordinarily speaking, this is the way of looking at things. Then if you are more devoted practitioner, then even after you say you need money and things, yes, you need, but how much you need? Because when we say we need, we are not putting any limit to that. We are deep down, we are thinking the more the merrier, you know. If I have 100, I want 1,000, 10,000, and lakh and crore, pati, and things like that, you know. So unless you put a limit to what you really need, you will keep on for the rest of your life chasing the glory of the material things, and you will continue to suffer from this inner poverty. So the choice is yours. Which one is better? Right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next, Shubha.
Shubhadra, not Shubha. Subhadra.
Oh, sorry.
Namaskar, Geshe-la.
Namaskar.
Geshe-la, I wanted to ask you a question which a lot of people are facing in modern life,
Yeah.
is the negative emotion of anxiety.
Yes.
And and the suffering caused because of anxiety. Do you have any specific advice how to start dealing with this?
Anxiety is, as somebody says, anxiety is tomorrow's rat taking away today's cheese. So meaning anxiety is not useful. As we had repeatedly cited this verse from Nagarjuna, Shantideva, if it is something you can change, no need to worry, no need to have anxiety because it can be changed. If it is something you cannot change, no use worrying, because by worrying you can't change it. Yes, I understand that is not that easy to practice, but not easy to practice does not mean you cannot practice it. It does not mean that there are other better alternatives. So you have to practice it. You have to accept the fact. So that's why the point that we need to recall and understand is that much of the suffering, a big chunk of suffering that we are experiencing today is our own making. Meaning that because of your ignorance, because of your grasping, because of your distorted mind, because of you're not able to see the reality, you exaggerate things beyond proportion. You exaggerate things, and you have this tendency to look at only one side of the thing, and you never develop this holistic viewpoint. Yes, from this side there's a problem, but don't just think about this problem alone. Think from this aspect. There is a bright sunshine here, you see. And then also, the so-called problem, difficulty that we face in our life, as I repeatedly mentioned, is really like the day and the night. We prefer day because there is light and illumination. But imagine if there is only day and no night. You will all then suffer from all kinds of diseases, right? So both are beautiful. And then suffering also, the fact that you are able to suffer means you are alive. So nature has a plan, kind of almost like a plan, you know. That sometimes I prefer using the word challenge than suffering, because there is a challenge, there is suffering, you face it, you struggle with it, you grow, you are able to take those inner qualities out. But if there's no struggle, no challenge, no suffering, you will never be able to take those good qualities within yourself out. So therefore, as somebody said, the mistakes you made in the past is your best teacher. The Buddhist teachers, they say suffering is introduction to happiness. There are even some other Buddhist masters of mind training. They scoff, they laugh at the word suffering. When we use the word suffering, they say, what? What is suffering? Where is it? By saying this, they are saying, it's only your perspective, how you see things. The same sunshine for two people. One with a positive way of thinking will say, I will bask in the sun, it's so wonderful. The one with the negative way of thinking will say, oh, damn this sun, it's so hot. It's scorching. Same thing. So you can clearly see much is really dependent upon how you see things. And then the important fact is that the rest of the world is not going to dance at your tune. There are things you can change, there are things you can't change. So accept that fact. Things that you can change, change. Things that you can't change, accept it, okay? All right.
Thank you, Geshe.
Okay, Jackie.
Thank you for your teaching. I was wondering about the three types of merit. Why doesn't that include things like patience also? Why are it just those three?
Very good question. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm guessing. Morality, of course, is important because it is the basis of our happiness. It is the basis of cultivation of all good qualities. Morality has always been compared like a ground, fertile ground. If you have fertile ground, you can grow all kinds of crops. So therefore, morality is extremely important. So have that. That's important, whether you're a lay person or a monk or whoever. I think because of that, he mentioned it. Then he mentions generosity or practice of giving, because he is giving this teaching primarily to a king. So for a king, I remember saying this same thing by Nagarjuna in his other text called Precious Garland, where he gives a lot of instruction and teaching. And at the end of the teaching, he says, okay, now I have given you a very lengthy discourse, lengthy teaching. Forget about you being able to practice because you are a very busy man, you are a king. But even somebody, a monk who goes into the forest, he may also not be able to practice everything that I've taught. But if you do one practice properly, completely, sincerely, you will excel out, you will shine out, you will become a great king. And that one practice is giving. Right? For ordinary people, lay people, the best way to help them, one of the best way to attract them is giving. Right? And then, of course, the third thing is meditation, which means that whatever you are doing, practicing morality or giving, whatever you're doing, you do it with proper thinking. Meditation means repeatedly thinking. Then you will find your way. So this is how I would interpret based on my guesswork.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions? Okay. If not, thank you so much, Geshe, for your time, effort, and wisdom. We are truly blessed. And to all the listeners, like including myself, the best gift that we can offer to Geshe is by practicing his teaching and making effort to be a better human. And so I request, like, we should be helpful, be patient, and be happy, and be mindful of every step. So once again, thank you everyone for joining, and we shall see you next week for more and more guidance from Geshe. And please, I request Geshe once again, bless us with the Mani Mantra before we do. Thank you.
Yunji Mago Gundo Gara, Dosanji Ulaji, Tuji Jinjin Dolasi, Jerry Sigla, so one day, Omanipeme, 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 Hong, Gewandi, Nyurdoda, Cherese, Wandu, Guchin, Gawachik, Yamali, Pati, Salang, Guevara. Thank you, everyone.